On the world stage, threats are often loud, very public. But the most powerful response? Sometimes it isn't a speech at all. It's a quiet, calculated move happening way behind the scenes. Today, we're going to connect the dots between some pretty aggressive warnings, a surprising shout-out from the White House, and a truly brilliant piece of quiet strategy.
And this is where it all kicks off, with this statement, a really stark and frankly very unusual warning from Pakistan's army chief, General Asim Munir, aimed right at India. Now, this wasn't just your typical political chest thumping. This was specific, and it was absolutely meant to send a message.
Okay, so that single threat, it was actually just one part of a three-pronged warning from General Munir. Let's really dig into what he was saying.
So here they are. First, breaching geographical immunity. I mean, what a strange phrase, right? Second, the old standby, the threat of nuclear arms. But honestly, it's that first warning and the third one about economic damage that are really fascinating. They signal a totally different kind of strategy.
So what on earth is geographical immunity? Well, it's this idea that India is basically a natural fortress. Think about it. You've got the massive Indian Ocean down south and the completely impenetrable Himalayas to the north and east. For centuries, pretty much any invasion had to come through one narrow corridor in the northwest. So what Munir is saying is, hey, those natural walls you've always relied on, they're not going to save you anymore.
And that third threat? Economic damage. Now, this isn't about launching a direct attack. No, this is all psychological warfare. The whole game is to create uncertainty, to spook foreign investors, and ultimately to put the brakes on India's booming economy.
So, you gotta wonder, where did all this sudden confidence from Pakistan's military even come from? It didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It seems like it was supercharged by a very powerful and very public pat on the back. So you have to ask, right, why now? What could possibly make Pakistan's top general feel so bold that he'd issue these kinds of specific, multi-layered threats? Well, the answer came from a pretty surprising source.
Yup, the answer came at an international peace summit, of all places. Right there, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, goes out of his way to single out General Munir for praise, calling him his favorite field marshal. I mean, that kind of public validation is like diplomatic rocket fuel, and it really seems to have directly powered this new bravado.
But here's the really deep irony in all of this. While President Trump was projecting this image of a global kingmaker, a very different scene was unfolding back in his own country.
7 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's not a poll number or a vote count. That's the number of actual people who hit the streets to protest against the administration.
And their message was aimed squarely at the kind of authoritarian vibe Trump was putting out there. That slogan, "No thrones, no crowns, no kings," was a direct shot from millions of his own citizens, a massive reminder that America is a democracy, not some kind of monarchy.
And this feeling, well, it's backed up by the hard data. President Trump's approval rating had sunk to just 44%, which means a clear majority of Americans did not approve of the job he was doing. It's such a stark contrast, and it raises a pretty big question. How stable is an endorsement from a leader who's facing that much opposition at home? So while all this noise was happening, you've got the threats, the praise, the protests, India was making its move. Not with a big press conference, not with a counter threat, but with something way quieter and a whole lot smarter.
The strategy is called reverse engineering. And look, this is not just about making a cheap copy of something. It's way more sophisticated. It's about getting your hands on your rival's best tech, carefully taking it apart piece by piece to see exactly what makes it tick, and then using that knowledge to make your own stuff even better. You know what? Here's a great way to think about it. A movie analogy. Let's say there's a huge blockbuster film called Freedom. Another director sees its success but can't afford the remake rights. So what does he do? He doesn't copy the story. He reverse engineers why it was a hit, the pacing, the emotional beats, the structure, and he uses that formula to create a totally new, original hit of his own. Same science, totally different product.
And that is almost exactly what happened in the real world, but with, way higher stakes. Pakistan fired a bunch of missiles of India. Now, most got shot down, but one landed without exploding. And what was it? A Chinese-made PL-15E. One of their most advanced missiles for export. It was an intelligence jackpot, basically hand-delivered by the enemy.
And here's a look at the stakes. India's own homegrown missile, the Astra, is a really solid piece of tech, with a range that goes up to 160 kilometers. The captured Chinese missile has a little bit of an edge, reaching up to 170 kilometers. But the real difference here, the real prize, isn't just about the range.
So what's the end game here? By reverse engineering that PL-15E, Indian scientists can take its advanced radar system and basically plug it into their own Astra missile. The whole goal is to create a brand new weapon that's actually better than the original, one with a much longer range, a higher speed, essentially turning a rival's strength into India's own massive advantage. This isn't just a simple upgrade, it's a strategic leap forward that could totally change the game.
Which kind of leaves us with one big question. In a world full of loud threats and political theater, is the smartest move always the quietest one? This story really seems to suggest that true power might not belong to those who make the most noise, but maybe, just maybe, it belongs to those who are quietly learning, adapting, and getting smarter.